As the lockdown occasioned by the spread of coronavirus pandemic grounds commercial, human and vehicle activities in some parts of the country, the hunger pangs, of course, gathering its own momentum as Nigerians cry out over rising cost of foodstuffs as well as other agro-commodities at an alarming rate. Currently, the restriction movements have negatively impacted the food supply chain with the tightening of transportation and other port capacities. And this has resulted in the shortage of food supply. Now, to say that the food sector is greatly feeling the impacts of COVID-19 is just to say the least. For now, a paint bucket size of rice sold for 1,800 naira 2 weeks ago, and now it's selling between 2,400 and 2,800. Same measure for gari, and which initially was sold for 300 naira, and between 300 and 350 naira is now between 1,003, and a kilogram of chicken previously sold at 1,100 per kilo is now going for 1,500 kilogram, and that's excluding courier services since they can be picked up directly from back. And now 50 kilogram basket, that's a basket of tomato initially sold for 4,000 naira to 5,000 naira. We're told currently it now sells for 13 to 15,000. Small tuber of yams, previously sold for 300, is going for 400. And no, that is between 300 and 400 is now jumped to 700 for sale of that tuber. This cuts across almost all categories of produce, doubling their prices. Why would the businesses or business people explore this global pandemic that no one actually prepared for to make things difficult? What other means can we get assistance from the government? And for those who are also in the businesses, what is the solution to enable all to be fair in trade and life during this lockdown? We'll find answers to these as well as other issues relating to food supply in Nigeria today. Welcome to the program. My name is Blessing Abu. Okay, joining me to take a look at COVID-19 and the rising cost of food items, I'd like to welcome the President of National Association of Nigerian Traders, Barrister Ken Okoa. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
You are truly prepared for COVID-19, I can see.
Everybody is.
Everyone is, definitely. And while this is ongoing, people actually weighed under the excruciating pains of prices going up. And fingers are pointing to your traders, the different markets. Well, perhaps there's a defense for why prices of foodstuff have to go up at this time. I know everyone is involved and everyone is feeling the heat.
Yeah, listen, I loved your intro, and I think it couldn't have been better situated. The situation is not just that of the traders, per se. It's a global issue. Sure. It goes beyond the ordinary trader in the field. And again, given the fact that there is a lockdown, and of course, the government gave the order to ensure that the spread of the virus is limited and contained. And that also on its own has implications for other sectors, essentially for food security. And I think it's important to note this. It goes beyond what you are looking at the marketplace. It goes beyond the trader. It also gets to other value chains, supply chains. Take, for instance, the transport sector. In fact, there are three sectors that are key in this particular, subject matter. The production sector, the transport sector, and the distributive sector. The production sector is the farmers that you have also asked to stay at home. So there is no production. So whatever we have seen in the market now are harvested commodities already harvested commodities that have been in the barn or in the silo or wherever
before the
lockdown. In fact, most of them before the COVID-19. So then that farmer is sitting down. He is not going to the farm. The farm is also watching the farmer. You mentioned tomato, for instance. I've had many of our people who have talked to us and said, look, that their tomatoes are in the farm, looking at them, but they cannot go to harvest. And these tomatoes, I'm sure you know, that they are perishable.
Exactly.
So you cannot even go and pull them. Even when you go and harvest them, there are no vehicles to convey them to the marketplace. Now, that's another chain of it. So the transporters will tell you, look, my friend, if you don't accept to pay 200,000, to pay 100,000, we cannot convey this from Kano to Kaduna. And of course, you begin to haggle, you begin to negotiate. And knowing that there are only few vehicles that have the lion heart to pick these commodities, to venture. And also knowing that they have a lot of checkpoints. And knowing also that these checkpoints will also accumulate in a lot of delays in these goods. From Kano, that I have a story of goods, tomatoes that moved from Kano to Abuja and just landed yesterday, and they spent 3 days. Ooh. Why? Because of the lockdown from that point to Abuja. It took intervention of the military guys to also assist. And by the time it landed in Abuja here, major chunk of that tomato had already spoiled. And whatever that poor woman has, he had to stagger the price to make sure that she covers the cost a bit. So these are the issues surrounding it. And I think that Nigerians will need to take it a bit easy. One most important thing is that we need to look beyond COVID-19, beyond this period. My worry is the impact of COVID-19 on food security in this nation.
Yes, look, which is one of the things already you've started talking about. You've spread out from aspects of this production, transportation, and also the distribution. And if they're not producing, like already it's been saying, we can't go out. That the farmers can't go out, and already it's almost planting season again for the farming community. How do we break even at this point of the lockdown, even before we even now say we're extending beyond the COVID-19 period? What's your greatest concern as business people, traders across the country? What are other things that you're learning from that?
One of the lessons is that, and this is a worry, by the way, that few goods are chasing larger demand, more people. And of course, look at FCT, for instance, where we are. And the FCT government said, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, you can go to the market from morning till 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Okay, when market is closed. All right, so this poor trader brings out his or her goods in the marketplace. And then, before you know it, there's a mad rush. A lot of people are coming out at the same time to purchase the goods. The goods are few. So there is a tendency there for, the economic theory to happen automatically, because the demand has increased, the price will also have to increase. This is not to say that we are telling traders to hike their prices.
Exactly, because
if there is any time any trader would need to really understand and go back to senses, I think it is now. And it's important to use this opportunity also to call on all our traders and all our members across the country. It is very important now. We serve God. We are prayerful in this country. I think it is now, it is a time for us to also show such pity. It's a time for us to show such religious attitude, if you like. It's a time for us to also get close to God. Show that love, convey that love. Think of those who are in the medical sector. Think of nurses, think of doctors who are sacrificing their lives. I think the traders should now begin to think of these people who are sacrificing their lives and treating COVID-19 patients. If these people, this sector would give this kind of sacrifice, then the trader should avoid hiking prices unnecessarily. We should rather show more love to people at this time.
Okay, let's get down to some of the other areas the intervention have actually come for farmers, because I know ultimately if the farmers get good treatment too, for those who had passed through different programs from anchor borrowers of the central bank and some other means of attending to production and also jacking up aspects of commercialization, ultimately the traders who will take up these goods will still get back to them as well. Now, if we have situations where we can, like government is trying to wade in now, aspects of palliative, releasing some grains from the strategic grains reserve and all of this one, could that actually help in one way or the other for those who want to at least engage in the business of selling some of those ones, or outrightly once they are being released? How can they come in? How can the government come in to actually bring some things to bear, even some of these grains that have been stored at different points, as well as some other produce?
I know that some of those grains are made to be provided free of charge to the vulnerable members of the society.
Yes.
And that's a very good one from government, a very good palliative for that matter. But it's important for us to also understand that before now, Nigeria had faced 3 important hydra-headed demons. And I want to say this with all sense of responsibility. And these demons have attacked our food security system. And that's why I am also looking at the future of food security, even post COVID-19. After COVID-19, what are we going to see? What are these hydra-headed demons I'm talking about? You see insurgency, the Boko Haram activities in the northeast, displaced almost over 90% of our farmers in the northeast. In the north central, you had the farmers' headers crisis. Benue State used to be the food basket of the country. What's happened? You see that almost 78%, the last count that we had, 78% of farmers in Benue State are afraid of going to the farm. They went back. Most of them are in the IDPs now. You look at the northwest, where we have banditry and all of that. These are the 3 demons I talked about here. And most of these places, the major chunk of people who are dying are the farmers. So immediately after that, you also saw that smuggling, which brought about government's intervention by closing the border, was also another trap. A very good one, good policy decision by government, brought a trap. Now, it's that one helped to show up productivity from the grains, rice sectors, and all of that, However, the gains from that policy appears to be washed away now by COVID-19. And the
demons are growing in numbers.
Exactly. The demons are growing in numbers. Now 4. And who knows, tomorrow, God forbid. But what we are seeing now is that government has come to a point where it's been forced to move about 70 million metric tons of grains now to become palliatives. Is there any future on how to restock? So do we have a strategy like that of Joseph in the hands of Pharaoh in Egypt?
Those are the questions that you will be providing answers to by yourself. You've already given the questions out. Right. I'm waiting for the answers once you're done from this break, because we're going on a break now. You're watching Nigeria Today, and our outlook is on rising cost of food amidst this COVID-19 lockdown in the country. We'll be right back after this break.
COVID-19 transmission is mostly through droplets from sneezing and saliva. The most effective way to protect yourself from the virus is to practice good personal hygiene. Wash hands with soap under running water or use an alcohol-based sanitizer if water is not available. Maintain at least 2 meters distance between yourself and anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Cover your mouth and nose with your elbow or tissue when you cough or sneeze. Dispose of the used tissue immediately. If you have traveled recently to a country with COVID-19 outbreak in the last 14 days and you have a fever, cough, or breathing difficulty, call NCDC toll-free numbers before going to the hospital. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, the program is Nigeria Today, and our focus is on the on COVID-19 and the rising cost of food items right here in Nigeria. I still have a guest seated, President National Association of Nigerian Traders, Barrister Ken Okoha. Hey, Professor Okoha, you started asking the questions: what future do we have in restocking some of the strategic reserves that we are already depleting by the moment through palliatives as well as other measures? And what more? Where do we get the traders to actually have their own restock? If farmers are not going to the farms and some other means, like you have already listed, the constraints from the insurgency issue, banditry here, the farmers' headers clash in the North Central, as well as aspects of COVID-19 too. People cannot mingle. And if they cannot mingle, no, of course, they cannot do other means. And we also are aware that states, interstate restrictions on bringing things in because they need to be sure, okay, these are actually the contaminated produce to get into the required state, especially the key, all states are key now. But of course, we know there was a serious lockdown in Lagos, FCT, as well as Ogun State. Correct. What are the traders? What are the stories you're getting from across states, chapters of your association?
A few, I think it's about a week or so ago, the federal government set up a subcommittee of COVID-19, which is looking at production and distribution of essential products. I happen to be a member of the committee, and we have been looking at this. Number one is how do we have asked ourselves, how do we also look at the structure of these essential commodities? One is health commodities, medicaments, consumables for the health sector. The second one is food items, food commodities, so that when you ask somebody to go and sit at home, he would not also recline to that poverty of the stomach that may lead to another death and then throw the person into another hospital. So we have looked at all of this, and therefore we decided that it's important to also look towards what is happening at the economic side, overall. And of course, when you consider the sluggish growth of the economy, you consider also the low revenue GDP ratio. You also consider the constraints on physical, space, as well as the low FDI and domestic investments, and then essentially the fact that revenue has depleted, oil revenue, which Nigeria depends on about 90%. So now all you get into about, as low as $22 per barrel. So the question is, where do we get this fund to patch up the leaking side? The second question is that we have called up an emergency for health. That's exactly what we're doing right now. Because everybody is sitting at home, and it's only health sector that is getting attention.
So what happens to the agriculture
What happens to the agriculture sector? What happens to the trade sector? What happens to the other sectors of the economy? I'm not talking about sports. That is also $1 million, economy of its own. But let's look at food security. Is it possible for government to now begin to look strategically at the food sector and perhaps resign herself towards some state of emergency outplay at that sector? This is one thing that should be considered. And in considering it, we'll take a look at two approaches, and this is what I feel. One is the approach of identifying individual farmers that can kick the ball rolling, and then another community.
Okay, I'm glad you raised the issue about the individual farmers, and okay, I thought we will be able to get the president of the All Farmers Association at this point, because he's been trying to join in this conversation. But then while they try to sort that out, let's get, what do you think we could do differently to think about that, which you just raised?
Yeah, we have talked about individual farmers, those who are ready to farm, those who have the capacity to farm. Can we have an express route to financing their agri-produce? That's one. Number two, communal farming. How do we engage in communal farming to the point that they can guarantee themselves? They become guarantors of any funding, any facility from the banks or the CBN, to the point that, look, you are looking at the military, getting its own farm, looking at the NYC getting her own farm, and you see, look, this is a communal 200 hectares for NYC. Their work for this period is go to the, because it's emergency, move into this farm. Or,
but within the lockdown, how did they do that?
I mean, we're talking about
post-lockdown.
Okay, now, we look at it from that angle. That's why we need to start now planning out of that box now, so that the post-COVID will not meet us unawares. But the most important thing is to look at the defense sector. These three hydra-headed demons I mentioned earlier, how do we kick them out? How do we muscle them and then keep them shut so that our farmers will get the confidence to move back to the farms?
And quickly.
That's the most important thing. And therefore, while we're looking at food security, we must look at that angle of defense.
The key security of the land.
Of these farmers. Okay. They are willing.
All right, well, we must go in the matter of minutes. Yes, like we already said, no one planned for this, so thinking, okay, to get to this point. Initially, it was just if it were stories, there were stories from another land, faraway land, but now it came on, and Nigerians being able to maintain that isolation and also to stay home and also stay safe is not being helped with the issue of stories of hunger and as well as some other aspects of food insecurity now. So in order for us to at least to ramp up activities to still make things easy for those who will venture to come out, at least to purchase some of this. I know you said it's not easy on your traders as well. It's hard. So, but what do we need to do differently to actually help ameliorate situation as we find ourselves? At least for this period, it's just some days into the lockdown and people are not finding it funny.
Yeah, two things here. One is what I said earlier, talking to the conscience of the traders themselves. Okay. If I'm a trader today, I should also begin to look at the doctor who is sacrificing his life, dealing with COVID-19 patients, taking all the risks, and going home also. Now, I should take a look at that and see where to show my own love from. But the second thing is for government to begin to now partner with people and organizations, especially the key national organizations, and see what can be done to have collective kind of goods, commodities, which, I mean, like what we used to do in those days, national supplies, that
can come out to say, look, this is this commodity basket here, and in the market it is being sold for 90 naira, but here, can we sell it for 50 naira so that people can also have access to it? I think this is what we can do. So that
and if they sell quickly like that, you don't need to actually get some rot in the way instead of just going that. All right, that's how far we can go with. Thank you so much, Barrister Ken Okora, President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. It was a great time with you on the program. We also appreciate your time watching this edition of Nigeria Today. You can see this as well as other edition on our YouTube address, youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. We thank you for your time, and we hope to see you in the next edition of the program. My name is Blessing Abu.